คุณนัท so can you tell us about the story of journalists in this crisis?
So in the seminar, which was organized by AIBD Malaysia, there were journalists from many countries in Asia, as well as representatives from organizations such as WHO Thailand, as well as UNESCO in Jakarta. So most of the journalists actually shared their experience during the pandemic. So one of them was the WHO. They actually shared on how they think they should fight with the coronavirus, as well as other countries where like Phoenix TV actually shared their experience in reporting from Wuhan, as well as other places, other media outlets actually had a dedicated newsroom for reporting on COVID-19, informing the public of what is going on, as well as debunking all the fake news that are circulating on social media.
And what's the guideline that they provide for journalists who are working on the situation?
So there are a few guidelines for the media when they actually report on the situation. During this time is where so many fake news are circulating, as well as misleading information. So what they actually advised the journalists are they're supposed to use the information that are from reliable sources, such as the WHO. So using the information from WHO will help the individuals and communities to protect themselves and others, as well as reporting on the government's response and the community's reactions, as well as raising concerns from the community. But at the same time, besides on reporting such issues, you should also take this opportunity to bring more positive stories to the public, because despite all the negative stories we're hearing, there are still positive stories to it as well, such as like solidarity, compassion, generosity, as well as creativity during these times as well. Some organizations also share their concern that journalists that have to report during this pandemic would experience mental health issues, because if we're reporting on pandemics, it's possible that such stories can be distressing and can be draining at the same time.
Yes, so journalists during this crisis has to be careful, คุณเทพชัย, because our job is not easy, it's quite stressful enough, and then we need to find positive view or positive story to help audience to feel a bit more relaxed as well.
Yeah, it's not easy when you have to report about deaths, about losses. You have to talk about figures, talk about grieving of people. Then, I mean, it's something that is a very big challenge for journalists, how to frame the story, to keep public informed, and at the same time to make sure that you don't frighten the people with the way you report or how you report. So I think there's something that certainly weighs heavily on the mind of journalists every day and every night.
So I would say that the journalists and the media have such a huge responsibility in terms of giving information to the public, because I'm pretty sure that all the audience are looking for accurate information and reliable information in such a crisis like these. So many organizations also advise the journalists not to only just focus on the facts as well, but their main focus is to report accurately and professionally, but at the same time, you should not use misleading headlines or anything that will distress the viewers. So avoid rumors and speculations, and if there's anything you could verify, just verify it as well. Avoid rumors and fake news, because during this time, everyone is looking for information that is relatable and to protect themselves, basically.
Of course, that's the most important fundamental principle for journalism.
I think the most fundamental part of being a journalist here is not just to find the facts, but I think the biggest role here is for the public. I think as a journalist, you have to be reliable in terms of giving out the information. But if there are fake news circulating, you still have to find a way to inform the public that this is not true, or find some scientific evidence to prove that these news out there is not true. So we have the reliable information. So these are the things you have to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the job is not to report, but you also have the duty or obligation to make sure that fake news or disinformation doesn't proliferate. And it's your job too. I mean, to make sure that you also find facts and to dispute all the fake news or information that is false and could put the public in a very, very frightening situation.
Exactly.
And what's the recommendation, Nat, for reporters, especially because many of us are under stress during this kind of situation? What's the recommendation for media community?
For the media community, I think there are many advice in terms of taking care of your physical health and your mental health. It is true that the reporting on pandemics can affect your health both mentally and physically. So there are other things. So for cases where you had to do field reporting, you have to determine the risk of where you're supposed to report. So what kind of protection do you need? And just do not hesitate to seek help and support if you do have to report in such a situation. Don't hesitate to share ideas with other journalists who share the same issue. And you can also take this time to develop your network and resources, especially if you cannot report at a certain location. So get in touch with your friends and your journalists to obtain more information as much as possible. So this way you can actually protect yourself from exposing with the virus. So you can still get the information even if you're working at home, or even if you're not working at a location where the outbreak started. So I think like keeping a network of journalists, obtaining information would be another good way.